going to be covering the updates for Cracks add-on v3. We've got damage. I added the damage controls back. These are upgraded a little bit. Got some new buttons and controls, and you'll be able to isolate vertex damage. Also on Cracks, this will be simulation based damage with its own Cracks shader, custom shader built in right here. And you will be able to, with simulation, crack any mesh object you want, and it's going to add a nice snazzy little bevel for you. Now that is not all of it. You'll have RGB controls up here, and you'll be able to do whatever you want with the color ramp. So let's jump right in and I'll show you. And you've also got the bevel controls, cool stuff. Stick around. If you don't have the add-on, you're gonna want this, and you're gonna need it at some point. It's gonna speed up your workflow like crazy, give you a lot of options, and if you already have it, go upgrade. This is 3.0.6, so go pick it up. And let me just verify. Yep, you got some different things in here you better do. Check out the key maps. Let's get started. I am so sorry, default cube. You've got to go. So, got us a cube. Cool. Move it over. Gonna pull in a UV sphere, and I'm going to upgrade this 64 and 32. And we'll do this little number right here. So we got some screencast keys. Guess we could bring that mouse size down a touch. Cracks add-on. Let's just shade this smooth. Even though the operator is going to do that for us, I don't have to do it. Start off with some of the basics here. If you haven't picked up the add-on yet, you'll see a few different things. Cracks shader, the V3, which is the Cracks V3. It's got V2 in it. This is kind of cool. This is just a toy. You can kind of play with it. It's just a different way of doing cracks. It only works on certain objects like that. Nice. Now what we can do is Cracks V3 is what you're going to use the majority of the time. And then you'll get this set up. Now you'll have a lot you can do. You'll have a few different crack styles as far as levels of cracks, earthquake, and shatter. Go to level 1. Mind you, you need to be shift left arrow on frame 1. This is simulation. And for those people who hate cavity, I'm turning it on, and for both. We're going to accentuate these corners and edges ever so nicely. I really love that. This helps out with YouTube not necessarily showing everything, so we got to kind of force the issue. Now, once you've done that, then you can come over here and let's select cracks level 1. These are all presets, and it's going to give you a very nice set of cracks, and you can then run the sim up and you'll get a bunch of other cracks. Pretty simple stuff. Now you can go to cracks level 2, and I'm not going to bore you and go through all these. It just raises it. Then you can go to earthquake, which is really cool. Kind of looks like maybe an earthquake. Who knows? But anyways, it's going to shatter it up pretty good. Next thing you can do is you can drop in some type of empty object. This time I'm actually going to go with the sphere. I like the sphere empty a lot. And it jumped out of the way. So let's bring cursor to selected, and let's grab that empty selected cursor. Bring it up. Always apply the scale for good measure, whatever. I'm going to grab this, and now from frame 1, we'll be able to move these around, and you will get varying results. Keep in mind, it is simulation. And if you were on, say, the cracks, let's grab this, and then we can upgrade that to cracks level 2, just basic. Seems to work a lot better. Okay, certain things don't work as good. You just got to figure it out, play around with it. You can rotate your cracks around, and they'll predominantly be on the edges now when you go to do the thing. Okay, so when you want to do that, if it disappears, just go back to frame 1 and recrack it a couple times. It's not too much. Let's hide that. It's really annoying. Now that looks pretty good. And from here, you could jump over to cycles or Eevee, doesn't matter. Let's open up the crack shader, and it says, let's select a mesh. I added a few controls in here because I forget too whether I've got something selected or not. So we can grab this, add the crack shader. Now you will have to load it. And for some reason, strobe is defaulted on. Just turn that off. I'll fix that at some point. And cracks RGB is what it added. You can see a little black there. That's denoting this color here. Bring this color up. You have color in the cracks now. It's pretty cool. You can play around. You know, it's a color ramp. Play around with it. Do whatever you want. Change the color of the outside. Anything. Nice puke green. Looks good to me. Red and blue. That ought to really hurt your eyes good. Now you love that. So this looks decent, but what if we want bevels on these little corners and all these little edges inside of geometry nodes in a simulation? Well, that's when we go to cycles, because the shader already has the bevel node attached, which is super cool. So you've already got your bevel node attached. You don't have to do anything. And the controls are going to be up here as well for the bevels. You can live change the bevel as much as you can. I don't think you're going to get too much better than the 0.01 maybe, like a tiny little bevel, 0.02. That looks really good. I think I like it better at 0.05. It's just nice like that. And there's a little bit of fakery for you. I like it. You come back in the Eevee engine. That doesn't work in Eevee. Do this thing. Now, if you're having trouble, all you have to do is bake this, okay? And the only time that's going to work in simulation is if you go ahead and save this, and then your bake option comes alive, and it'll bake whatever frames you have here. I have it preset to 30. If you need more than 30 for that, just increase it. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and run back, and if it didn't crack like good, you know, you go back and do it again. But this looks pretty good. So say you're done, you can apply the cracks, you can hide or delete the empty. Then I can grab the parts collections. You can make up to 7 collections, and each one of these has some power behind it. What it's going to do is it's going to, excuse me, it's going to separate loose parts. Okay, so, and it's also going to create a collection, and it's going to throw all the separated parts into that collection. You have to do anything. It's going to reset all the origin points for you too. And if you happen to have some other object in your scene, and you grab this one, you can put it in collection 2 if you want. You can use these collections for whatever you want. Just realize it's going to separate loose parts if it has it. So like, let's see, what does that? The monkey head. Whoops. The old monkey head does that. So if we go to parts collection 3, it's going to separate her eyeballs, which is funny, and give you a parts collection for the Suzanne. And, you know, it'll try to name everything for you. So all that's cool, like that. Now that you've done all that, you can crack it again. I think it's pretty cool. It is going to kill the shader, but you can do different effects with it. You can add the same shader with the same exact settings. It's going to stay there. I separated that on purpose, so that way you could conceptually come in here and reload it. There we go. And don't forget that strobe button is on, so you gotta turn it off. But it'll contain the same stuff. You can keep the same crack. You can change the crack level, something smaller this time. Maybe you want to do level 1 cracks, kind of bring it back and shatter it that way. And this is a neat procedural way, if you will, to grab like a bigger crack and then make some smaller cracks. And then when you apply this one, you can separate the parts. Just throw that in part 7 for the fun of it. And I grab this one and I crack this one. And then I can maybe throw cracks 1 on this again. Go back to 1 here. And you're going to have these cracks. And what I want to do now is I want to grab maybe the resolution, bring it up to 100, And then I can play around with the offset a little bit. Let's see, it's going to be at 0.01, so 0.009 perhaps. And maybe it'll give me a crack or two that I want. I can't really see those, it's kind of grating, so I'm going to throw an empty in. And just do something like that. I know that was the not sure if that was a quicker way or not. But anyways, I'm gonna grab the empty, and now I will be able to move those cracks around from frame 1, and I can move that up here. There we go. That's where I wanted that. And see, now this is gonna get to the point where it's even smaller, finer resolution cracks. Then I can crack it again. And this gets kind of neat. If you get good at this, you can basically just create this upwards effect of the cracks just being from larger size to smaller, or vice versa, whatever you want to do. Then for this, I can go ahead and add the cracks shader to it. And don't click crack shader again, because it will delete the shader behind the scenes. Just reload it. And I do that for there's a special reason why I do that. Doesn't make sense right off, but it will later as you learn this program. And things kind of get away from you sometimes. I had to pause. Once in a while, I notice, very rare, that the simulation will give you some kind of a glitch. If it does, just delete the cracks and reapply like I did. And now I can just kind of move those cracks back again to where I had them. Looks pretty good. Crack this thing up a touch. And I had the resolution up, and I like it. So I'll go ahead and apply those cracks, and voila, there you go. That's the whole deal. You can crack mesh like that and have all kinds of fun. So what I want to do now is show you the damage. And damage is going to give you an option to isolate on vertex groups. Solid. I'm going to shade it smooth. And we can just add some Voronoi. Now this only works when you're in object mode. You'll get an error if you try to add this in edit mode. But then of course you can jump back into edit mode and grab some verts. Let's do that. Something like that. And we can hit the little plus sign down here. And it's going to give us a group. We can assign that group, and then we can load the group. It's going to load it into the active modifier. When we come back out, we're going to have isolated damage we can kind of play with. Now you want to add a subdivision to this, okay? And for other flat objects, there's a subdivide. It'll give you 10 cuts. But if you sub-D this, it's instantly going to look good. It's going to come out with 2. It's going to call bump D, whatever I would put in there with my tighter brain. And you've got some damage isolated now. Now the cool thing is you can come in here and add clouds to this, and clouds is going to be controlled separately, okay, from this one, because that's on a vertex group. So you'll see different naming conventions here. There'll be a crush at 7 and a crush at 3. Okay, the crush at 3 is obviously going to be the clouds we just added, and then the crush at 7 is going to be the Voronoi that we just added. Get out of there. And then you kind of play around with that however you want. Go ahead and get rid of that. Let's try a flat object. So you come in here, you've got something very basic, like a cube. In fact, you might be doing this for damage, on something like some kind of terrain. So what we can do is we can subdivide that with 10 cuts. And since we just put that in there, you can see, hey, that now has 10 cuts. You can go ahead and add something to that. We can throw the Voronoi on, and you'll have the previous textures there, but every time you add one that is not active anymore, it's got deleted, it's going to delete it in the background, so don't worry about that. So now you've got this set up. You can sub-D that as well to make it look good. And then if you wanted to come in here and just add this, you can do that as well and add yourself another group, assign it, and you got to have the modifier that's active for that. So maybe just work on this before and then sub D it. So once you've done that, you've assigned it, come back out, and you just have damage there in that one spot. And then once again, if you want to add some other damage in there, you feel free to do so. And you could even further subdivide that 10 more cuts if you wanted to get some crazy looking definition. Then you can go ahead and play around with it, and it'll say marble, it'll say Voronoi, and all these different things. So I hope that will be helpful. Now let's go back to cracks, because there's one more thing I actually want to show you I wasn't thinking about until just now. So if you go ahead and crack this, now we have the option to actually fill the cracks. So you will be able to fill them. And you've got to go back to frame 1 for that. And it will fill the cracks. Now this is cool, and it's going to be really slow, unfortunately. But you can add the cracks shader to this. And that will be kind of a unique way to have a crack that's actually, filled as such. So let's go ahead and add that. Like I said, it's going to be a lot slower. And that strobe is on there. Before I upload this, I'm going to have that defaulted to off, because that's super annoying. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. There we go. And then you can scrub through. I wouldn't grab it and left click hold. I would just left click it once or twice and get that to kind of move forward. And then you can fill the cracks up like that as well. So that's just another option for you guys to kind of play around with. I appreciate everybody watching. Hope this becomes something very helpful for you. And don't worry, anytime you want, you can crack something and then you can apply it, loose parts it, grab it, and then you can crack it again. So it seems pretty cool to me. Have fun. See you guys in the next one.